Okay, so what you're going to do for your activity today is the idea of applying what it is that we've learned and make what we call mathematical predictions. Okay, so what that would mean is you're going to take two substances. Okay, and we got 9 in here. So do you want to do 3 groups of 2 and a group of 3, or 4 groups of 2 and someone on their own, or 3 groups of 3? You tell me. Okay, so then look around, and yes, I understand some of you are gone for your FFA activity, but what we do here is whoever it is that you're working with, you need to find someone that you're working with. So for instance, you 3 ladies, for instance, one of you 3 needs to write that down, what it is that we're going to be doing right now. Okay? And then if you 3 are in a group, one of you 3 needs to write it down. And if you 3 are in a group, one of you 3 needs to write this down. Okay. Okay, so with that information, what you will do is take 2 solids, suspend them in a liquid, and then this is just a shortened idea. What happens is 2 clear liquids, okay, and then this was dumped in this beaker this morning. And what is it, according to your vocabulary, an insoluble substance that falls out of a solution? What is that called? That is a precipitate. So what you see in here at the very bottom is if we agitate that a little bit, you can see that that precipitate is maybe moving just a little bit. And here is your precipitate on the bottom. And you're not going to be able to see your results today. That's why we can't wait till tomorrow and then try to wrap this up on Wednesday. We just don't have the time. We got students shifting in and shifting out. So what you're going to do in your group, write down what is this compound, what is this compound, and then what is that telling you that's going to happen on that right side. Okay? So you're taking all the knowledge that you've learned so far and apply this, because what happens, okay, is whichever one of these forms on the other side is what we call you said a precipitate. Should we just save time and write this equation out? You want to work on that yourselves? Together? Okay, so we can do that. And we don't need this. Okay, what's the symbol for nickel? What's the symbol for the chloride ion? Okay, is this complete? Okay, so what do you need to do with this? Okay, and then of course this is y, this is -1, that's +2. The least common multiple between them is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 1 gives you 2. Okay? What is sodium? What is hydroxide? Is that written correctly? We sure? What's the charge of hydroxide? What's the charge of sodium? Does that add up to 0? Sure. Okay. So now we've got this double replacement reaction. Okay. So where does this compound split apart? Right here. And where does this one split apart? Okay. So pick a positive ion from this side. Okay? So what will this nickel bond to from this compound, but on this side? Okay? Does this 2 go over there?
Yes, but you have to put the OH in parentheses.
Yeah. So you're both right. Yes, it goes over there because we don't want to write it like this. Okay, that's partially correct. We want not just one hydroxide ion, we want 2 of the whole hydroxide ion, so that's how we write it. And then what's the sodium bond to? Okay, so then we've got sodium chloride, not for ingestion. Okay, you would not take sodium chloride from this and utilize as table salt. Okay, so what we mathematically will do, okay, is take a starting point, and we're going to say measure out. I think we'll just keep it simple. 5 grams of this substance, 5 grams of this substance, okay? And then, like you had mentioned earlier, okay, what is an insoluble portion of a compound that falls out of a solution? A precipitate, okay? So when we look at this, I believe correctly, chlorides are quite soluble. So then this is what we call a PPT, or precipitate. And what you do in general chemistry then is you will mathematically try to determine how many grams of this should you form. Because again, on Tuesday and Wednesday is you will strain this, okay, the precipitate that you have, and then weigh that, okay? So, for instance, the precipitate that you measure after separating it from this beaker, we'll say is maybe 4.2 grams. Mathematically, you pick one of these two, okay? We'll just say, for right now, we'll just say the sodium hydroxide, and you mathematically change this to grams of this on pencil and paper, and on pencil and paper it says, no, you should make about 7 grams, okay? None of this means anything to you right now, but in general chemistry, you're responsible for all of this. We're doing this together as a group, okay? So one of the things that you might be thinking, is there something that we should do with this equation before we head over to the lab? We need to balance that, okay? So in this case, okay, does it look like it's difficult to balance? Okay, so what would we do in front of nickel? Anything?
You could double it.
What about the sodium hydroxide?
2.
Okay. Then, since we didn't put a 2 over here, we're not going to put a 2 there. We got 2 sodiums and only 1 over here, so what would we do? Put a 2 there. Okay. So for our practical purposes right now, this is how we're going to proceed forward. Okay. What's inside this box is pretty important. Okay. And we will continue with this tomorrow. And I understand some of you are going to be gone, but that's where we'll get our data from people who are here. There's no way of getting around that. Okay, so we're going to head over to the lab here shortly. Tomorrow we'll be able to review. Those of you who are gone today, and if you're gone tomorrow, we'll have content for you to review as far as these chemical reactions are concerned. And then Wednesday, one more day of review because we'll be working on this activity. And then exam part 1, which is your vocabulary and general questions over this chapter, is on Thursday. And then I hate to say it, but I don't like Monday exams either, okay? So as of right now, part 2 is going to be on, per se, Monday. But I see, and Monday and Tuesday, it's just tough going because there's a track meet on both days. And maybe there's an FFA activity as well. But one of the things I see that we don't leave, or you don't leave till 11, but that's when this class starts. Maybe with Elk Point, we will adjust that as this time frame gets closer. Elk Point being far enough south, you might be able to get that track meet in, although I think it snowed further south this weekend. But we're more so concerned about this activity, so we're going to head over to the lab and get that started. More information to come. We'll catch up to you next time.